Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Friday, the 7th of February 2025. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed down just a touch today, 0.1%, to 8,511 points. It was a bit of a mixed day. The big banks were higher, so too the big miners, but CSL, Macquarie, Wesfarmers and Aristocrat Leisure were all lower. After all the Donald Trump-related headlines, it seemed like a quiet session today. Domino's was the best performer after the group said it will cut 200 stores globally, including 172 in loss-making Japan. Its share price jumped 21%. Collins Foods, owner of KFC, also did well, rising more than 12%. Energy and healthcare stocks were among the worst performers. Transurban and Telstra were also lower. Story number 2, the federal government will commit $842 million over 6 years to strengthen the delivery of services in remote communities in the Northern Territory, including policing, women's safety, alcohol harm reduction, and mediation and peacekeeping activities. The announcement came after the Prime Minister arrived in Alice Springs last night and just over a week after Peter Dutton visited the region. Alice has been hit by crime, domestic violence and antisocial behaviour. The Albanese and Northern Territory governments have signed an agreement to deliver the NT Remote Aboriginal Investment, a commitment designed to offer certainty on more than 570 jobs and ensure remote First Nations communities can access the services needed to close the gap. The agreement will increase funding for Aboriginal interpreter services and deliver new funding for community development, mediation and peacekeeping activities. Story number 3, Nick Scali reported today, and boss Anthony Scali was very upbeat about the retailer's push into the United Kingdom, saying its sofas and swivel armchairs are being bought up by English shoppers. The company posted a small loss for the December 6 months, but investors liked what they heard. Its share price jumped 12% today. Scali's is one of the first consumer discretionary stocks to report. Now, consumer discretionary stocks have done really well on the ASX this year in anticipation of strong earnings. Nick Scali did not disappoint today. However, Anthony Scali warned that demand for big-ticket furniture items in Australia and New Zealand fell in January. He said trading was very volatile week to week. Story number 4, Woodside Energy's boss Meg O'Neill has come out swinging against the Victorian and federal government, saying it is too late to avoid an economically damaging gas shortfall in Victoria. She blamed a decade of political opposition to the fossil fuel industry. O'Neill believes it is too late to avert a shortfall as developers such as Woodside remain wary of Victoria's sceptical attitude towards the fuel source. I quote, "Ideology has stood in the way of sensible energy investment. In times of crisis, things can move quickly. We'd like them to move before you get a crisis." The comments underscore the expectation that Victoria, Australia's most gas-dependent state, will be forced to import LNG in a move that could, in the short term, add to price pressures, according to a report in The Australian today. And story number 5, Amazon last night warned investors that it could face capacity constraints in its cloud computing division, despite plans to invest some $100 billion this year, with most of the money going towards data centers, homegrown chips, and other equipment to provide AI services. Chief Executive Officer Andy Jassy wants Amazon to become an AI supermarket and is spending big to retain the company's edge in cloud computing services. But he warned growth would be lumpy and hinted Amazon could face capacity issues related to delays in getting hardware and not having sufficient electricity, according to a report on Bloomberg. The concerns echo those of rival Microsoft Corp, which last week said its cloud sales growth was hurt because it didn't have enough data centers to handle demand for its AI products. That's it for the afternoon report for Friday, the 7th of February, 2025. Make sure you hit follow on the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.